Okay. Welcome, everyone. We're so happy to see you all. We are getting warmer, as you can see outside, so I hope to see more of you in the coming months. And we should now rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. What happened? You're on.
I'm deaf.
Francis, would you like to lead us?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now we're going to have a moment of silence. I'm going to change the schedule a little bit. I would like to do a thank you. Jenny, would you do a thank you to our veterans and first responders?
Yes. I'd like to thank all of our veterans and first responders for trying to keep us safe. I also want to send out a great big thank you for Ed Lackerman for doing the program that he did yesterday for the Holocaust. It was absolutely wonderful. More people should come, and they do need all of our prayers. These survivors that are there and the memories that they go through are just unbelievable. My husband and I come every year, and every year it just doesn't get any better. But please, dear Lord, protect all of the responders and people that are taking care of us and protecting us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Is our supervisor here?
Yes, I'll be here in 1 moment.
Okay, thank you. He wanted to get on first because he has to go to an event. So nice to see you all. You all look well. Are you waiting for a heat wave like I am? We did?
One day.
I must have missed it. I guess. There he is, our supervisor, Tom Diana. Thank you, supervisor.
How's everybody doing? Here's trouble right here. This is big trouble.
Yeah, we know.
I'm here to help you.
You're here to help?
Wait a minute, is that the government? Oh.
Yeah, no, you stay there. How we doing, everybody?
Fine.
Good. Just want to give you a little quick update on what we got going on here in the town. As you can tell, there's a lot of moving pieces. We got pools that are going to be opening shortly, right, Jim? We got parks that have reopened as of April. We got that done ahead of schedule. We were able to garner $1,050,000 from the gas line company.
Good.
For our inconvenience of having the park closed for 3 months during a time when we didn't even use it. So I did some negotiation there. So it was all good. We got a lot of things done up there. The park now up there is as safe can be. We're going to be getting the paper on that particular park. That'll tell us exactly what they did. But it takes time for that to formulate because it is so voluminous. With all the geological stuff that they do and have to put together and try to put it together in a way that most of us novices can understand it. They have something called an electrical resistivity test. I can just about say it, let alone what it is. But it's all good. I happened to take a tour yesterday of the par 3 golf course. Joe, I got to tell you.
I heard you were there.
What do they report on where I am? What do I have, GPS on me?
I was there a little while ago.
Okay. I walked the course.
Great.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing what they did there in 7 weeks that we didn't get done in 10 years.
Wow. Good.
The whole inside is totally redone. The bar has been moved. They now have serving windows on the outside out to the patio. It's now getting to be ADA compliant, where now if someone wants to go in and have dinner and their mobility is impaired, they can now roll in either with a wheelchair, or it's easier to get in with a walker.
Right.
Everything's flat and level. Where they had the door bucks that were up that high. How are you going to get through that with a walker or a wheelchair? Almost impossible.
Where is this course?
The par 3 is at the intersection of Route 6, just past the Taconic State Parkway, on heading east on Route 6, heading towards Jefferson Valley.
Right?
Yep.
And is it outdoors or indoors?
Oh, it's outdoors.
Beautiful.
9 holes. They played the course last Sunday just to see how long it would take them. Takes them about the 9 holes takes about an hour and a half. Here's a little secret, but you can let it out. They're going to try and put in the center, about halfway through the course, there's going to be a place where they're going to have refreshments. So you can get halfway through the course, and if you're having a powerful thirst, you can get a sarsaparilla there, or something of that nature. I don't know if they're going to have food there, though. Are they, Joe? They're not going to have food.
They have a cart going around. They're talking about a lot of different amenities, but yes.
Yeah.
Great.
And there's going to be another surprise I can't tell you about.
Okay.
You know about it. But it's really, really come along. I'm proud as proud can be that these guys came in. They did what they said. They are over their own budget, but they're going to be ahead of schedule. And now we're going to be getting rent. We're going to be getting revenue, and so on from this particular amenity, this jewel in our town. As everybody saw probably driving in, we have the Wyant that is proceeding, and it's glaring. I'll be the first to admit that when you drive into town, you see wide open spaces. They took down about 175 trees. They're going to replace 204 trees, okay? Plus 400 odd plants, shrubs, and smaller trees. So it's going to be, there's a landscape plan. It's in front of planning. It wasn't something that occurred in an overnight type of thing. This was on schedule, but it has been sold. Mr. Gus Boniello now owns it. Mr. John DeVito has sold it to Gus. So, there's going to be some little changes here and there. But right now they have a site plan approval. This has been going on, I'm going to say 6 years, if I'm not mistaken. So it's, people think this stuff happens overnight because all of a sudden they see it come on their radar. But it's been going on about 6 years. So that's one project. Got Soundview moving ahead. It's moving ahead nicely. And all the meetings that we have are for the public. Okay? That's why we're having them. It was public driven that we have these meetings. Part of the major thing for Soundview is what's going to happen with the traffic at Route 118 and Underhill Avenue. That project is going to correct a lot of the problems there because the contractor is going to do the work. Okay, if he wasn't doing the work, we probably would never get that job done. We never would get the amenities that we need there, the turn lanes, etc., the different light timing. It's quite the project. It's probably it's $1 million project, but I'm not going to hone it in any further than that. So that's another thing. There's also going to be don't block the boxes put on that road so that people can get in and out of their roads. That's always an issue up there. The speed is another issue up there that we're going to contend with. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bring up possibly lowering the speed possibly to 35 miles an hour. It used to be 30. It was raised to 40. Bring it down to 30 again. That'll put more distance between cars and so on and so forth, which will make the traffic move a little smoother. And there's another development that's and a lot of these things are in the infancy. Right off of Route 6, the old Contractor's Blue Book. I don't know if you know where that is. If you're coming down East Main Street in Jefferson Valley, and instead of turning onto Route 6, you go straight up. There's a a turnaround up there. Contractors Blue Book was up there, overlooked the Taconic State Parkway, basically. We were up there about a month ago. I'll tell you, the setting up there is absolutely beautiful. It's a shame to take down the buildings that are there, but they want to do some housing and with different amenities for all people. So that's some of the long and short of what's going on here in the town. We have some infrastructure projects going on. They're going to be relining some pipes up on Hanover Road, and we're going to try and do a contract extension so that the company that's already there can continue on, because it's going to save us money. We don't have to pay for mobilization, re-engineering, so on and so forth. So I'm trying to be fiscally responsible and getting these things done and use the taxpayer dollar as best as we can. So that's about all I got, folks, unless we have any questions out there, and then I'll get out of your hair. Go ahead, Rosemary.
I just want to emphasize the fact that we really do need senior housing in Yorktown. Many of us, I don't know if any of you noticed, are aging. And
No.
and we really can't handle a large home with a large piece of property and what all the amenities that we've put into our homes, like swimming pools, et cetera. You get to a certain point, you just can't handle it.
Right.
But you've lived in a town for half a century, and your friends are here, your church is here. You don't want to have to move outside of the town.
No.
So there is a need for senior housing.
Absolutely.
And I would like to remind people that seniors shop close to home. They don't generally travel a long distance for their groceries, for their everyday needs. They don't go to Danbury, they don't go to White Plains. They want to either walk or be able to drive a short distance. So I hope the town board will dwell on that fact that we have many seniors who have aged in this town and now need to downsize for whatever reason, whether it be physical, financial, social. We need to have more senior housing.
We definitely do, and I also want to do workforce-driven housing because many of the young folks that are out there may be just starting out. So we'd like to do some workforce-driven housing where they can afford to live there too. Not affordable housing. Let's not mix that up. And I thank you for that, because there is an element. There is an element for senior housing at each of these places.
Good. I'm glad to hear that, because seniors, traffic is always a big issue.
Yep.
But seniors don't go out shopping at peak hours. They don't go out at 8 in the morning, and
No.
they don't go out at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Right.
So, and more shoppers we have local, the better our businesses are going to be.
Right.
And if our businesses do well, they will be able to continue to contribute to our tax base, which we as citizens will have to replace if they're gone.
Every
So-
dollar we spend here comes back about three times.
Absolutely.
And to your point, a lot of people think that, when you have a development, okay, everybody leaves at the same time. That doesn't happen.
No.
People trickle out, whether it's 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and as Rose was saying, that everybody's not leaving now. Okay, and they are going to go out and shop, but they don't shop during the normal hours, or, that other people do. And they're not going out to work, so you have a reduced traffic flow. So it's the misconception is that there's going to be an overabundance of traffic all the time. It doesn't, and not only our traffic people, but the traffic people for the developments that are going through say the same thing. Our traffic consultant says it. The traffic consultant for the different developments and so forth say it. So it's all a good thing. And I have to say one thing. I want to thank Rosemary and Serafina. They've been a wonderful help to me up in the office. This way I can let my administrative assistant go to lunch. Otherwise, she doesn't go. Okay, I don't allow it. Yeah, she sneaks out if I happen to go somewhere. She keeps telling me she wants to get skinnier. I don't understand why.
I don't know why.
So, but anyway, that's all I got.
Well, I would like to, in the time that I've sat there, and I've listened to you talk to the people that come in, whether they be leaders of different departments in the town, roads, plumbing, whatever. I'm amazed at the amount of knowledge that you have about the infrastructure of the town,
Oh, thank you, Ro.
which is, I'm sure when you're deciding on how much to pay for things, that gets into your
Oh, yeah.
discussion. But I'm really surprised. I have to admit, I do listen to what they say.
She eavesdrops on me.
But I'm amazed because people come in, engineers, construction people, right, Sarah? What have you, and he can correct them, tell them, no, that's not going to be thick enough, you need to do this. That pipe is not going to be sufficient. I mean, so we're very blessed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank
And
you.
also with the ease that he says and talks to everybody.
Yeah.
He really talks to everybody with respect and.
Not pushy like us, right?
No, not pushy like us. He'll say what he needs to say, but he won't say it mean. So he's a good
Does anybody
person.
have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Two questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Solar farm that's going on East Main Street where the building,
Yeah.
who benefits from that?
That actually goes back into the grid and gets distributed. Depending on the battery storage, if there's battery storage there where they actually put back energy into the grid during brownout situations, then not all of Yorktown, but certain areas in the grid would benefit from that. But clearly, I'm not a ground-mounted solar guy. I think everybody in the room probably knows that I don't particularly care for it. That was, I'm not going to get into that. That was a project that should have been another project for possibly some workforce-driven and seniors, but it was not. It was battled. So. Actually, who benefits from it? It does go back into the grid, and people do get some. It's community energy, I guess, is what you could call it. I can't give you an exact amount or how many. No, it goes back out into the grid.
And I feel it.
Is there going to be a cell tower on Hill Boulevard and Route 6?
The corner of Hill and 6, yes, there is, and that's going to improve the cell reception within the area that they have indicated. I'm not 100% certain what that area is. On a map, I'd have to see. But there's, I guess, dead spots, many dead spots that takes care of. And the complaints they get are probably not from you and I. It's from the kids that are on their phone constantly, playing. What's that? Candy Crunch or whatever the heck it's called there. Candy Crush. They don't have their LTE and their A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So, that's where it comes. It's all the data that people are using now. They need more capacity.
I understand what it's for, but do the residents of Yorktown have any say in whether they want it or not, like they did in Mount Kisco?
Absolutely. It's been on. There's been public hearings on it on a couple of occasions now, where people could have come, and I believe it's still under site plan review. I'd have to look into that. I'm not sure exactly the phase that it's in, but.
So it's a done deal?
Jenna, they had come in and we had to, basically that's a done deal for them. I know we had to do there's some lawyer work that had to be done on it, and there's some alienation. Was the alienation done on that one? I forget. I think the alienation was done because it was parkland, so.
I wish I had known about the meeting because I live right there. And
Yeah.
I'm not happy about having it.
I am talking about it.
Yeah. There was a number of meetings about it. Sorry you missed them. Maybe we have to do a little better job about getting that sort of thing out there, and we can. We can put more on the website more often, or something like that. So, yes, ma'am.
Is there a plan for the Roma building?
I have an idea.
Now that they took down all those trees behind the building, is the building still standing?
As far as I know, it is. He came through with a plan 5 years ago or so, after I got the hole filled. That was my deal there. all right, because I was in that sort of business where I did tank removals and environmental remediation. So when Michael Grace was in office, he says, "Can you help with that?" I said, "Yeah, I'll get it done." And I did. How we did it was walking a tightrope, but we got that much done, and we got them to pave it, and we got them to give us, there was $35,000 in fines that we were able to levy through them. I went to Supreme Court on that particular case and got it done. It's been ugly for years. It's really ugly. I agree with you 100%. But there was a grand building supposed to go there. Yeah, that one had the big clock tower. What would you like over there? Okay, so we have to work on that. It's better. It's better now, right? We don't have a hole in the ground. We got it paved, or they paved it. But we have to. It's all up to the building owner. He had, I think, in the grand scheme of things, is they cleared that most of that building out of all of its residents.
Yes.
And the grand scheme was to do this building that they were going to do there and make the corner more beautiful. And of course, that was just an artist's conception. You know, from that to where it'll be, where any project is going to be, is always different. So, are there any plans in the hopper right now? Haven't seen any.
Darrell, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question, more a comment. We discussed this at the executive board meeting, and I'm in the process of getting an address of the person who pays the taxes on that property, and I want to institute a letter writing campaign from the taxpayers of Yorktown, telling them how awful it is and how terrible it is that they're not at least refacing that. I don't care about knocking it down and building new. At least reface it, wash it, make it look better. So if I'll get an address, and maybe at the next meeting, if they haven't done anything, I'll pass out the address and a possible type of letter that you can send. Because trust me, letters from taxpayers work. I've done it in the past for certain things.
Sam Zerka is the gentleman's name.
And trust me, if Darrell gets onto something, it usually gets done.
Yes, ma'am.
I know you're putting up about 250 units up on Blue Book area. I'm just a little concerned, people coming down from, are you making some kind of different road to divert the traffic, whatever traffic is coming out of there? Because I work for the Blue Book. I'm coming out of there.
That's a beautiful setting up there, isn't it?
It's gorgeous.
It's absolutely, it's a shame to knock down those buildings, and it's like a golf course.
Oh my God.
On a hill.
I mean, I have a sunset that I took that up there that'll blow your mind.
Yeah, I could imagine.
But anyway, I feel real bad that that's all going down.
Yeah.
I knew Mr. O'Malley very well, the owner of that area.
Yeah.
And a lovely man. But I'm just thinking, coming down from there, people going to Maytown, people getting on 6, people getting on, on Connor Parkway. It took me 15 minutes to get out of the parking lot.
Yeah.
So I would think about maybe kind of doing something to get it more safer.
I have
That's
two.
the word.
I have two concerns there. Number one is the traffic. Okay. Number two is the view shed. All right. They had come in with a plan where they wanted to do different story rises out of there, 4 stories, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not for that, and especially the way they have the buildings presented, because you'll see them as soon as you come off the parkway and so forth. So it's in its infancy, and we're working with the developer.
Oh, that's nice. And also, there's rock walls that the Indians put up there,
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. O'Malley didn't want those touched.
Yeah.
I got such a feeling for that area, because I lived right across from it.
Yeah.
I had a home right across from it. So I know that area very well.
Well,
Alrighty.
thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you so much.
I'm getting the evil eye.
Getting the
from
evil
you.
eye and the high sign that I got to yank him out of here? Okay. Folks, thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
me. I'm honored and privileged.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Blue Book, I don't know.
It's when
I'd like to I wanted to get the supervisor on because I know he has an appointment. So I failed to introduce the members of the committee, so would you kindly tell everyone who you are?
Francis McVitie.
Daryl Lindholm.
Barbara Liefeld. Jenny Menton, and I want everybody to know we have these little medical cards. If you're interested, we have them in the back where you can put all your medical information. Mr. Moderano is holding one up there. They're very good to keep in your pocket or in your car or whatever. But they're in the back if you're interested. We brought them in today.
Thank you for that, Jenny. Thank you very much. Rosemary Panio.
Serafina Mastro.
Maria Fama.
Diana Quaston.
Joe Falcone, Recreation.
Deborah Marks, liaison to Matt Slater's office, 94th District.
I want you to know that Deborah has been very helpful. She was a member of our committee. Now she's liaison to Matt Slater, and she's been very helpful to us. We hope next month to have Mike Lawler here, our new congressman, and if we can accomplish that, basically Deborah's been working on that. Thank you for joining us, Madam Clerk. That was very nice of you. And okay, now who did I leave off with? Anybody? No. Okay, very good. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce this person here, Marty Wilson, Teaching Kitchen Coordinator for New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital. Would you like to get up, please, and say a few words about her?
Of course.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Hello.
Nice to see you again. I'm Wendy McNamara, Community Affairs Coordinator, New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital. I want to thank Rosemary and the entire board and the liaisons for the wonderful work they do. New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital is your community hospital serving the heart of the Hudson Valley with specialties in cardiology, cancer care, orthopedics, digestive health, obstetrics, and gynecology. It is my pleasure to introduce my colleague Marty Wolfson, our new chef and coordinator at the Chef Peter X. Kelly Teaching Kitchen at New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital. Marty is a certified health supportive chef and nutrition educator of 15 years. She specializes in food therapy, functional nutrition, and mindfulness practice for preventing and healing chronic illness. Marty has a master's in nutrition and functional medicine from the University of Western States, and you're in for a treat. It is my pleasure to introduce Marty Wolfson.
Thank you so much. It's good to be with all of you. As Wendy said, I'm the culinary nutrition coordinator at our beautiful teaching kitchen at Hudson Valley Hospital, just 13 minutes away. And I started 2 months ago, and I've really just been talking to a camera and looking at myself, so it's so nice to look at other faces. Has anybody joined me online? Because I can't see the students that register. Has anybody signed up for any classes? Oh, good, we've got one. Okay, I highly encourage you to. What I teach is now in the field of culinary medicine. And what that means, it's usually a trained chef and that has an advanced degree in nutrition, and I help basically translate the nutritional science to the plate. So if a doctor, doctors are now, thank gosh, saying more about eating whole foods and exercising and sleeping and our social relationships, but I take that further to what that meal looks like for cardiac disease, what it looks like for women's health and good thyroid health. So there's all kinds of classes we offer every week for free. I'm really there to help support the community. I educate our employees so that that information trickles down to the patients. And I help nourish them. I make soups every Wednesday for our cancer unit while the patients are sitting there. It's a real treasure here.
A wonderful kitchen. I've been there. Beautiful.
It's an absolute gem. It's very rare for a hospital to have a teaching kitchen. So, and then we also have an organic garden right outside. I have a whole team of volunteers that come every single week to help maintain it and grow it. And that food serves me in the kitchen, but it also gets donated to CHOP, Caring for the Hungry and Homeless of Peekskill. So why am I here today? Well, you set me up, Rosemary, that we're aging, and we can't.
You too?
Yes, me too, even me. We can't avoid it, but we can age healthfully. And I wanted to bring you a couple tools for your toolbox as to what you can do every single day to really help prevent many of the chronic diseases that we're seeing, even treating chronic disease. So I don't just talk about preventing with food, but also treating with food. Food is our best medicine. We do it 3 to 5 times a day. There's many traditions around the world that have used food as medicine. And I wanted to talk in particular about sarcopenia, losing muscle mass, because it's really not talked about as a chronic disease, but a third of adults over 65 deal with sarcopenia, losing lean muscle mass. Muscle, right, protects our skeletal system, our structure. I was just driving into work thinking about our structure and kind of the metaphor of like scaffolding. I grew up on scaffolding and ladders. My dad owned the oldest ladder company in Philadelphia, and I worked there every summer. And, you know, you have to think of your skeletal system as the scaffolding, and the muscles around it is what protects it. We start losing muscle mass around our 30s and 40s. And we think, I kind of grew up with the notion, like, we just lose it and, you know, it goes bye-bye. No, we can grow it and maintain it. But how do we do that? We have to do it with strength training. And there is incredible research that's come out and that's emerging. Like a couple months ago, an incredible study came out showing that all-cause mortality can be decreased, the risk of it can be decreased with strength training. Strength training is now associated with reducing the risk of Alzheimer's and dementia. It's really connected to all systems of the body, and I'll explain why. But what are we talking about with strength training? It doesn't have to just be weights, although it could be, and you don't have to go to a gym. It can just be resistance training, loading the muscle. So that could just be using your own body to do lunges, right? To lean against something, and if you can, just to bend, using your own body to stress the muscle. It's been shown you just need 30 to 60 minutes of it a week. That's not a lot.
No.
I mean, I'd like to see you do I'd like to see you do it every single day, because every pound of lean body mass you add on, that you make more dense in the body, here's what happens with more muscle. It's like a sponge. It absorbs glucose, and this is why we're seeing it help with diabetes. Okay, so it helps the muscle become more insulin resistant. What else does it do? Muscle is anti-inflammatory. It doesn't just hang there. It's doing something. It's metabolically active. It's what do we hear about chronic diseases now? Inflammation. And when we age, there's now this term called inflammaging.
Oh.
That there's this chronic low-grade inflammation that happens. Well, a study came out that took a group that did cardio, just cardio, you're running, walking, power walking, swimming, biking, and then a group that did more anaerobic or resistance strength training. What they found was, in the cardio group, all of these inflammatory markers appeared, that they increased. Don't freak out. Now, that doesn't mean not to do your cardio. But what they found in the strength training was that they didn't see those pro-inflammatory compounds in the bloodstream. So yes, you need your cardio. You need to do your power walking, okay, for reducing risk of cardiovascular disease. But you also need strength training. It could be with bands, it could be yoga, Pilates, things that are anaerobic, okay, that are like short bursts of training. Any questions about that? I am a nutritionist, so I'm going to get to food. But you can't talk about building muscle and reducing sarcopenia without the exercise part. Okay? Now, that's got to be coupled with food. Yep.
Excuse me, I have a question. I hope it's not a silly one, nonetheless. When a person loses a lot of weight, a lot,
yep,
can that also make the muscles
absolutely weaker, a little bit weaker, less dense? Yes, you have to have, And I would say you need to increase your strength training when you're losing weight. Because, especially as we get older, there's that risk, and if there is low bone mass, and then coupled with sarcopenia, then you're setting yourself up for a recipe for falling and frailty.
Will you spell that word for me, please?
Sarcopenia? Yeah, sure. SARCO.
Easy, SAR.
COPENIA. Sarcopenia. Loss of muscle. So there's strength training and there's increasing your protein intake. Maybe you've heard about this.
Oh, yeah.
Because we lose protein, we lose muscle mass when we age, so we're losing protein. But what happens is if you don't have enough protein in your diet and you don't have sufficient muscle, the body has to pull from protein. It's got to pull some reserves from somewhere. So you start to be depleted even more. When you muscle train, you actually help to synthesize more protein in the body. So where should you get your protein and how much and when? I'm going to talk about, okay? Where should you get it from? Well, I'm an all-access eater. I mean, I love all food. I think a good range of animal protein and plant protein. I brought my little basket of plant protein here, okay? I don't travel all the time with this, but so plant proteins. We've got our beans, okay? I would also say tofu and tempeh, okay, are great soy-based plant proteins.
Yuck.
Hemp seeds. I get these at Trader Joe's all the time. Hemp seeds and chia seeds. They're really reasonable there. They are loaded with protein. They're loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, which are important. And I'll add these to a smoothie, okay, a couple tablespoons, over a salad, into my granola, okay? Great. All nuts and seeds are filled with great protein. Flours, chickpea flour. I think a lot of people don't use this. You can use this to make falafel balls and veggie burgers, and it's very high in protein and fiber. The thing I like about plant protein is that you're not just getting the protein, you're getting all the fiber and micronutrients you need to keep your inflammation down and to fight disease. Animal protein isn't going to give you all those micronutrients. It's just going to give you that raw protein. Okay? Any questions about?
Marty,
yeah.
If somebody has diverticulosis and has to avoid seeds and some nuts, what do you suggest are good substitutes that still give that protein?
Yeah, I would say beans and legumes if they can handle it. The tofu is wonderful, and tempeh, and then meat. What's nice about fish and chicken and minimal beef is that you don't need a lot. 3 ounces gives you about 24 grams of protein. So that leads me to how much should we get? It's about 0.36 grams per body weight, which amounts to a 160-pound person would need about 58 grams of protein in a day. Most of us actually aren't getting that. And if you're very active, you need 75 to 100 grams a day. If you have kidney issues, you need less than that. Okay, if you're you have to be careful with the amount of protein. So I would say you could use that average number to calculate for yourself 0.36 grams per body weight, and you should spread it out through the day, about 20 to 25 grams per meal. Not just at the end of the day, because your body is constantly building and breaking down protein. So you should spread it out, and when you add your strength training in and add more of it in, you should be having some kind of protein about an hour to 2 hours after you do that strength training, because that's when the protein best synthesizes in the body.
Excuse me, what about your protein with your drinks, like Ensure and your yogurt? Do you get any protein through that, or cheeses, peanut butter? Peanut butter is so.
Nut butters are great. Yes. When I make something like a drink, like a smoothie, I will use something like yogurt or kefir, which is it's a thinner yogurt. It's a drinkable yogurt. That'll give you For instance, if you use a cup of yogurt or kefir, that's about 8 grams of protein. Then I would add in the hemp seeds, and I get up towards 20.
Right, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So it's good to have a rough idea how much.
Because they have that protein powder. Is that a fake protein, or is that okay?
It's a fake protein.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I don't love them. A lot of the powders are filled with different metals and additives. If you can find a good whey protein or pea protein, that's okay. But I try to always start with a more whole form. Yeah, it's a good question. Any other questions?
What about vegetables? Do vegetables play an important? I know we are from the Mediterranean, so our diet is a Mediterranean diet.
Great.
But it's basically mostly vegetables of one sort or another every day.
There's trace amounts of protein in vegetables, but then you also need the vegetables coupled with the protein to help it synthesize. So absolutely. So when I make a smoothie, I throw in not just berries, but I throw in spinach or kale. And try to get a spectrum of color, spectrum of nutrients.
Interesting.
I have.
What is tempeh?
Tempeh is a soy product. It's a fermented soy product. It looks kind of funkier than tofu. And you have to know how to prepare it well, but it comes in like a slab, like a rectangle, and it's quite delicious. It's kind of like tofu. You can do what you want with it. You can crumble it and make a bolognese. You can sear it, and make like a mushroom scallopini. It's very versatile. Yeah, and you can find it in most stores now. What I like about it is that it's fermented, so it gives you that probiotic, like yogurt and kimchi and sauerkraut.
I was going to say sauerkraut is very good also, correct?
It's very good. I did a whole gut, a probiotic class yesterday online, and it's extremely good. We know we need it every day. And all you need, I'm talking about like a tablespoon or two of sauerkraut.
A day.
A day.
No question. I do that, yeah.
New Pearl. K. It's a drink.
Okay.
And Nugo. They're full of protein. But that's not getting it from the food,
From the
I'm
whole
told.
from the whole source. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So how does that work into a person who needs protein?
Your body.
Because it is a lot of protein. It's
Right.
made directly for this disease that they have. It's KEPRO.
What I would say is look at the ingredients.
Oh yeah.
Make sure there's not added sugars and binders. What you get in a lot of these drinks is you get these additives and fillers that actually deplete nutrients. So it's kind of a catch-22. That's why I there's recipes, right? Right, Wendy? Okay. Okay. I left you some recipes, a couple smoothies in there, because your body really just recognizes real food.
Right.
It doesn't recognize these alternative ingredients that are in food, and it starts to pull from the body.
And you're on the website that we could get a lot of this information
You
on?
can see all of our videos; they're all archived.
On the
so you can
what-
watch them at any time.
Yeah, I used to come to them before when you had them in the kitchen.
Yeah, yeah.
But since
And we're going to get
COVID-
back there.
Oh, yeah. But since COVID, we don't do that, and I enjoyed always coming to the kitchen.
Yes, we will get back
It's a
there.
beautiful kitchen.
Also, if
Yeah.
you go to events at nyp.org, that's events at nyp.org. Every month at the beginning of the month, the events for the month show up for Hudson Valley Hospital, and there are links to register for all of Margaret's
okay.
wonderful classes.
Okay.
And we also have a monthly physician in the kitchen, and often, so some of the wonderful physicians we brought here also do.
We
wonderful
do a
classes
joint.
with Marty.
Yeah, we do a joint program. So
I know,
next
it's very,
week we're-
very interesting. I used to go to them all the time.
Good,
I love
yeah.
it. Yeah.
So it's events at nyp.org.
Ask her a question.
You said whey protein is
PW?
good, right?
Whey protein is good.
Speak
yeah,
so fast.
Is there an amount that you should use? Because I use it in a lot of different things.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's usually they'll tell you right on the. It's usually a scoop or two that gives you about 20 to 25 grams.
NY.
Events at New, no.
Lady,
Events at NYP.
Strawberries, bananas, blueberries, kale, and
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's-
I also put it in pancakes
Okay.
and waffles and
Yeah, you can-
Excellent.
just sprinkle it on.
Yeah.
Great idea.
And it doesn't taste as chalky.
As some of the other protein. Yeah, that's right. Right.
Okay. Marty? Oh,
Kimchi is a fermented sauerkraut from the Asian culture. It's buried under the ground for years.
Very good.
No, it's spicy. I just made actually for the class. It's Korean, and I put it into a fried rice. I chopped it up and I mixed it into a fried. So it was a spicy fried rice.
Oh, okay.
It's delicious. It's not. Some people have a hard time palating it, but it's very good. Yeah.
Marty? Oh.
Yes, that's what I was saying. We're going to get back there. Yeah, we're just kind of, waiting for the green light. Yes, with Emily. Yeah.
Marty, do you have special classes for seniors only? Because we're in the opposite.
I would say most people. What I've heard is that most people that came were seniors.
Okay.
Yes.
Because we're not working, so we go.
Because
to
what we teach
Good.
are really issues with aging and longevity.
We need that.
Yeah.
It's mostly
Please.
seniors because
So,
we come during the
please.
day. We come during the day, and everybody else is working.
And they're
that's
during
it.
the day. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Good.
So please check out the classes. Go home. Use your resistance bands. Do your lunges. Make your protein smoothies.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was
Thank
a pleasure.
you.
to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Any samples?
Okay, next we have on the agenda our esteemed former supervisor and assemblyman, Matt Slater. Very proud of you, Matt.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello to our Senior Advisory Committee.
How was Charlie? Is he all right? Was
My
he
kids
okay?
are great.
Okay.
Charlie's fantastic. Elizabeth's great. I was just over at Charlie's elementary school because they did a poster contest for Earth Day.
Oh, yeah.
So we were celebrating Earth Day with them. But, it's fantastic to be with all of you. Let's start with the obvious. And I wanted to start by putting to rest one rumor that I hear every time I come to Yorktown. No, I did not move.
Yay!
Still live here in town. My kids are still being raised here in town. My mom and my grandmother still live in the house they raised me in, and so we're proud to call Yorktown home, and we will continue to do so. I'm proud to be representing the community now in Albany in the New York State Assembly. And originally, when we had discussed coming to see the Senior Advisory Committee, we were going to provide a briefing on the New York State budget, which was due at midnight on March 31st. The update is that there is no update. We are now at the point where it is the longest delayed implementation of the state budget in 13 years. And frankly, it's just Albany's dysfunction at its highest level. The way that the budget works in Albany, much different than here in the local government level, they put a lot of policy into the state budget. And so while we were here during my time as supervisor, talking about how much does it cost to run the operations of town government, and then you overlay that with your revenue, and that's your budget. In Albany, they put a whole bunch of policy on top of the actual numbers associated with running the state of New York. The state's budget is massive. For those who don't know, it's approximately $234 billion, billion with a B. Unfortunately, we continue to face an affordability crisis. We continue to be ranked last or near last in all the wrong categories. It was tax day earlier this week on Tuesday, and once again, New York State's economic outlook was ranked last in the nation. And I think we all understand why. The affordability crisis that we're facing, I think, is paramount, and it needs to be addressed. The $234 billion budget covers everything from education, healthcare, public safety, investments in our roads, and then, of course, just the normal, day-to-day operations of the state of New York. We have passed now 4 budget extenders. So what does that mean? So the budget was due on April 1st, because that's when the new fiscal year begins for New York State. Since there was no budget to be voted on or in place or agreed upon, they give us like a 1 week's worth of appropriation to pay our employees and some of the basic operations of the state. So we've passed 4 of them at this point. So if you think about it, today is April 21st. And so from April 1st to April 21st, it costs approximately $3.9 billion just to baseline operate the state of New York. And so we've continued to approve those unanimously in a bipartisan fashion because we don't want state government to shut down. That makes sure that our EMS workers get paid. That makes sure our correctional officers get paid. Our mental health professionals get paid. All of our institutions continue to operate. This week, we had to make sure that the members of DMNA, the Division of Military and Naval Affairs, gets paid. So, again, making sure that the most important employees continue to be paid. And so that's where we're at right now. Now, what's stopping the budget from being agreed upon? It comes down to a couple of policy issues, not even agreement on expenditures. It's just policy right now. The first one is cashless bail. Cashless bail, arguably, in my personal opinion, the worst policy ever approved in the state's history. Cashless bail. And cashless bail, I mean, you can talk to Chief Noble, you can talk to our law enforcement community, you can talk to our judges, and we had a roundtable here in Yorktown Town Hall in February with Congressman Lawler, with the law enforcement community. And when you look at the criminal justice system that's in place, it's a catch and release system, very, very hard to actually hold criminals accountable. And cashless bail is really the impetus to that entire process. And so Governor Hochul, to her credit, and I'll give credit where credit's due, wanted to make some changes to cashless bail to take away the least, there's a clause that says that the judges have to impose a least restrictive means of imposing bail, basically, on somebody. And she wants to remove that from the law. And that is literally it's like 3 words. Is literally what's holding up, one of the biggest things holding up the budget. New York City does not want any changes to cashless bail, and frankly, we feel that it doesn't go far enough, because when you look at the system as a whole, you have cashless bail, raise the age, and at this point, raise the age. They also passed in 2019, raise the age because of the laws that are in place. Now 16 and 17-year-olds are being actively recruited by gangs and drug lords because they know that the laws in New York State are very lenient for 16 and 17-year-olds. And so they're actually actively being recruited. We heard this from our law enforcement community today, when we had our task force meeting in February. And then discovery laws that are really geared towards the prosecution and the DA's office and the impact that has on actually being able to prosecute criminals. And so the 3 of those pieces really are crippling our criminal justice system in a big way. If you look at index crimes in New York City up 47% since cashless bail has been implemented. And so this is just common sense. It was passed in the budget in 2019. I don't believe in putting policy in the budget, but we put it in the budget in 2019. And if we're not going to fix it now, when the heck are we going to fix it? And so we'll see what the final version is. But that's the first hurdle that's stopping the state budget from being approved. The second hurdle is the governor's proposal on housing. Now, in the last 12 hours, there's been a lot of news headlines about some apparent decisions made on housing. The governor proposed a couple of things, the first being a housing compact. It impacts Yorktown directly, and I spoke about this to the town board when I provided an update to them. The housing compact would require 800,000 new high-density units to be built in the tri-state area, Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester, Putnam, Orange, Rockland, and Dutchess counties. The issue that is the greatest concern, and again, I just want to make a point that I think we all agree that diversifying our housing stock, I think, is a noble cause and something that we've taken on here in the town of Yorktown. And we've actually been a leader in this for quite some time. But the biggest concern with the governor's proposal is it takes away local control. Because if the town, any municipality, rejects an application, and there's a whole legal process that it goes through. If the town rejects the application, the applicant or the developer can then go to Albany and go to an appeals board in Albany, and Albany can actually reverse the decision and tell a town like Yorktown that they have to build this project in this way, in this place, no questions asked. Now, we're a home rule state. It's in the Constitution of the state of New York, and that is completely counter to the Constitution. So I have a significant concern. We've seen bipartisan opposition from not just myself, but Supervisor Diana, the Yorktown Town Board, all the way to County Executive George Latimer, who's come out and said that the mandate portion of the governor's plan is really not the correct one to take. Secondly, regarding her compact, she put a pot of $250 million aside that's supposed to help with the necessary improvements when it comes to development. Now, I can tell you from being a supervisor here, I can spend $250 million right here in the town of Yorktown, let alone all of Nassau, Suffolk, all of Westchester, Putnam, Dutchess, Rockland, and Orange counties. So I don't think that the $250 million that she thought was a good idea is a good idea, because I don't think we'll ever see a nickel of that money. And that's supposed to go to help improve our roads, sewer systems, water systems, and make sure that we have the adequate infrastructure to support an influx of a population based on the 800,000 units that she'd like to see built over the next 10 years. So that's a second policy issue that is stopping the budget from being at least agreed upon. Now, in the last 12 hours, there's been reports out of Albany that has now been rejected fully and is no longer part of the budget, but as Ronald Reagan would say, trust but verify. And so we'll see what the final budget bill has once we actually see one printed. Another thing I want you to keep your eyes on is a thing called FMAP. So federal government provides about $635 million every year to New York State, who then gives those dollars to each county to implement Medicaid services. So this is our safety net services for our most vulnerable population. The governor is proposing to sweep those dollars, $635 million, put them in New York City to deal with the migrant crisis. And then if you listen to NYSAC, which is the New York State Association of Counties, a nonpartisan is what it is organization, they estimate that the impact, because now you're going to have counties making a choice. They either have to cut services because you no longer have the federal dollars to support them, or you're going to have to find new revenue. Where do you find new revenue? Property taxes. Right. And if you listen to NYSAC, the New York State Association of Counties, they've put out a whole slew of memos and articles on this. They estimate the property tax increase on this one proposal would be between 7 and 14%, depending on what county you live in. So I go back to where I started. We have an affordability crisis. People are leaving in droves. We're leading the state in outward migration. And we just keep seeing more pressure put on property taxpayers and property owners here in New York State. And it really is counter to what we should be doing. And so, those are just some three basic policy issues that is being deliberated on in Albany that's holding up the final budget from actually being negotiated and hopefully brought forward to the legislature for an approval. Some good things in the executive's budget and the governor's budget that I do want to recognize is her record $1 billion investment in mental health services. Obviously, we have a mental health crisis in our country, and I do agree that a significant increase in mental health funding is necessary. But I also want to see some of the details in that because, as we know, we also have an addiction crisis as well that's happening all across New York State. And when you talk to the providers and you talk to the advocates, New York State's systems are very siloed. So you do have multiple agencies that oversee the services to help those who are dealing with an addiction, whether it's alcohol, opioids, whatever it may be. And so the question becomes, is the $1 billion actually going to help those people? We don't know. We haven't gotten the details on that. But at least it's a step in the right direction. There's also a record investment in our public schools, which is fantastic. I've spoken with Dr. Hatter and Dr. Gagliardi about the governor's proposal there. It's approximately $4 million increase in foundation aid for Yorktown, $5 million for Lakeland. And in theory, that would help property taxpayers here because that's less money that they would have to go to taxpayers for to fill their budget. When it comes to local government, and of course that's where I always look based on my last 3 years here in Town Hall, our AIM funding remains flat, but more importantly and more concerning is the money to pave our local roads. Our local road funding is going to remain flat according to the governor's proposal. And when you talk to our highway superintendent, Dave Paganelli, who I still talk to quite frequently, the cost to pave roads has increased by 30%. So that's an increase due to inflation and the construction materials increase that we've seen really since COVID. And so if you're going to get the same amount of money and it costs 30% more, that means you're paving 30% less. And obviously that's a problem because our local roads are really important. They're actually essential. And actually just this morning, a new report came out saying that New York State has the worst rated roads in the entire country. So, again, I go back to affordability crisis, and we're getting crushed with taxes, and what are we actually getting for those dollars? And when you look at some quality of life issues, specifically our roads, and you have a state road right here in Route 118 outside the window here, You know, when you go talk to DOT, they'll tell you they have no money to fix anything. So it's a really, I think, mismanaged system. I'm on the transportation committee. It was one of my requests because I recognize not only the underfunding, but the mismanagement of our state roads. I was out today with the Region 8 Director, Lance McMillan, up in Putnam County, looking at some of our state roads. And I think we really have to restructure how we evaluate and fund the transportation system here in the Hudson Valley. Ironically, Region 8, where we live, has the most laned miles of road and the most assets, meaning most bridges. We also have amongst the highest user rate in the entire state. And yet our specific region, Region 8, in the last conditions report, was the worst in the state. So again, I go back to, we're paying astronomical property taxes. What are we getting for those dollars? And so, you know, while those are, you know, it may not sound great, I do want to tell you that my experience in Albany has actually been fantastic. We have great people up there, people on both sides of the aisle that you're able to collaborate with and work with, have great conversations with. I've led a bipartisan coalition to try to fund universal free healthy meals in our schools. The federal waiver expired. They never renewed it. And unfortunately, about 750,000 kids who are getting free breakfast and free lunch in schools no longer are eligible. And you just had a nutritionist here talking about the importance of actually eating healthy foods. And, you know, I can't think, again, coming to the table as a dad, I can't imagine sending your kid to school hungry because you can't afford to provide, you know, some basic sustenance for them when they're going to school. Then having your school district say, sorry, we can't feed them either, I think is really wrong. And so we've led about 80 of my colleagues have signed on to this bill. We've brought a lot of Republicans and Democrats together on this particular issue. It's about $260 million that we can actually feed all of our kids in schools, and I think that's an important one. So that's a great collaboration that we've seen in Albany. So it's been a great experience. Met great people. We get to really talk about a whole host of issues. Every 15 minutes is a new conversation, so I really enjoyed the challenge. And it's been fantastic. And so I just wanted to come and give a quick update as to where we are in the state budget, because it really does impact you here in Yorktown. And like I said, I still live around the corner and care deeply about the community. And so I just wanted to come by and say hello. And I do want to point out Deborah Marks is here.
Yes.
Deborah, my office is now in Brewster. Even though I live in Yorktown, the district office is in Brewster. We have Frank Garcia, who is on staff to deal just with veterans issues. So a veterans advocate right on staff. Deb Marks is our constituent extraordinaire, but mostly focused on our seniors. So we do have Deb who can help directly with any senior-related issues that you may have. And then, of course, Kira Brunner in the back of the room is my district director, and also from Yorktown. So, we are still very much focused on this great community, focused on all of you, and providing a high level of constituent services to all of you. And Madam Chairwoman, I appreciate the opportunity to provide an update, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
You're welcome anytime. You know that. I do have a list of questions, but I'm going to...
You sent them to me. You did send them to me.
Tax laws relating to seniors and exemptions.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I'd like to remind the seniors that Kim Penner, who's a wonderful person, by the way, reminds us that if you have not filed your senior 467 for next year by May 1st, you will not get it. This is for next year. So go in and see Kim. She's very, very easy to talk to. It's a very simple form, and the reduction will take place the following year. So if you haven't done that yet, please call Kim Penner.
She's fantastic.
Here in
I've
Town
called
Hall.
on her more than a few times while we see some bills come on my desk in Albany, and I call her up and I say, what does this mean for our taxpayers?
And she's very easy
fantastic.
to talk to and willing to help. So please file that by the 1st of May.
Yeah, I mean, the tax exemptions, obviously you have an enhanced STAR and STAR program. We are talking about a taxpayer bill of rights that really does make sure that you have the necessary information like what you just described, and it's plainly and clearly communicated to our seniors so that they understand when their deadlines are due and what they get for those exemptions.
Right. She will give you a form that explains what information you need to provide to her. And she just blub, 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 she crosses it all off, she puts it in her file, and it's done. It's very simple. Yes?
If you just bring your tax return and she'll look at the tax return.
There's more than the tax return that is required. But she does have the list in her office, excuse me, and she'll be very willing to help you. It took us 3 minutes. So
Yep.
we're very fortunate. We have a lot of very good people working for this town who are very willing to help everyone.
Excellent people.
We have Jim Moderano standing in the back right now, who's our recreation director. He's also one of those individuals who loves to talk to people and help them out. So we have we have our clerk and everybody that works for the town. They're all very nice, you know. So if you have an issue, just ask them, and they'll, I'm sure, try to help you out. Flavored marijuana.
Yeah, so you've heard this out there.
Flavored cigarettes.
Right. There's a lot of talk about it in Albany, but I don't believe that it's going to be allowed.
Good.
Obviously, we're doing a lot of work right now since they've legalized cannabis. They do a lot of, I think, questionable marketing, where they make it look like it's kids' candy.
Yeah.
And I think it's a significant concern as a parent that we have to make sure we're keeping our eyes on. And I think there's got to be some real enforcement on some of these some of these vendors. So obviously, whether it's that with regards to the packaging, or if it's in regards to the flavoring, I think that we have to take a hard look at all those things. Oh, you're good, no problem.
Is New York State going to allow land ownership from China?
So, believe it or not, I'm glad you brought this up.
Already doing it, right?
So, I was very concerned over the Chinese balloon fiasco.
Right.
And so I actually looked into this.
Good.
And there is no prohibition in the state of New York currently that would allow any nation of concern, China, Russia, North Korea, from purchasing and owning land in our state. I think it's ridiculous. Yeah. I've heard, done a lot of work on this, and there's actually, in the Midwest, the Chinese are purchasing a lot of our farmland.
That's right.
And they're letting it rot.
Mm-hmm.
They're really doing it.
They not only that, but there's now reports out of Oklahoma that the Chinese have purchased these compounds. They've got a fenced border with patrols, and usually the patrols are to keep people out.
Could we tell them how they did that? Because we want to use it for the border.
In this instance, it actually keeps people in. It forces their people to stay in these compounds. So it's really outrageous. And so I've actually introduced legislation that would prohibit any nation of concern from purchasing and owning property in the state of New York. I think we have to do everything we can to safeguard our citizens. Mm-hmm. And I know it's going to be a bit controversial, but at the same time, we have to make sure that we're taking care of our own. And we have to make sure that we're protecting every resident of New York State. And if and just look what happened this week. I don't know if you saw it down in the city, but they just busted up a Chinese police headquarters. Since when are the Chinese allowed to have a police headquarters in the United States of America? That's ridiculous. So my legislation was just endorsed by the State Conservative Party. They just called for it to be passed.
Good.
I believe Senator Ashby is going to be introducing it in the coming weeks.
Good.
So we have a Senate sponsor. But this is a basic homeland security measure. Again, it's not just the Chinese, the Russians, the North Koreans. Yeah. You can go down the list. But anyone, in my opinion, any nation that the State Department has labeled a nation of concern should not be owning property in the state of New York.
Right. Good.
Just common sense.
Amen.
You want to know my other questions?
I can guess.
Okay.
There's a do not call list. There's the term limits.
Term limits. What do you think of term limits?
You have to.
Yes.
Have to. You have to have term limits, especially on the state level. And listen, I genuinely love public service, but I think the problem is people come in with the right intentions, and they try to fix the problem, but when they're there for 30 and 40 and 50 years, they become the problem.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, I do think that we need to take a hard look at imposing some type of term limits on members of the legislature and statewide office. And so that's something that obviously I wholeheartedly support.
If you're going to be government of the people,
yeah,
it can't be government of the same people
Right.
for half a
But then
century.
you finally get new ideas in. You get new, and not only just new ideas, but new energy, new focus.
And if you're good, you move up, and if you're not, you should move out.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
I
right.
agree. Okay.
One more.
Recusal. When legislators are voting on a topic, if they have a financial interest or special interest in anything in that field, I think they should be required to recuse themselves.
Yeah, I mean, so in the state, we go through, I think I've had like 3 or 4 ethics trainings that are mandatory at this point. And they're very accessible when you have questions about whether or not I can vote or not vote on a particular item that may have a personal, impact on me personally, from a financial standpoint or from a business standpoint, but also from a, just an ethical standard, right? Like, am I allowed to, in the state of New York, we can't accept gifts of more than $15, right? So I'll never forget, I was in Albany once, and they had the Lou Gehrig's organization came in. They put Lou Gehrig bobbleheads on everyone's desks because it was for ALS. And actually, the Ethics Commission came around behind them, and they were swiping them all into a garbage bag. They're bobbleheads. But the bobbleheads were valued at more than $15.
Oh.
And so they are very strict with it. We've had some, I think, instances in Albany where you have, you had JCOPE and all these other, I think, organizations that were politically driven and politically controlled. We have a new one now. We'll see how they do when they get tested, because I'm sure they're going to be. But I think it really comes just down to common sense. And common sense in Albany isn't so common.
That's not so common, right, exactly.
Nope. And so, but I think on the recusal part, I think, every legislator should just take the time to have the necessary conversations with either their ethics board, their council. When I was a supervisor, I dealt with the ethics board all the time. I would ask them, hey, am I able to vote on this? Mm-hmm. I've asked for opinions on things. Because I wanted to make sure that whatever if I cast a vote, it was appropriate. And sometimes people don't always think that all the way through. But I think it's important as a legislator or any elected official that you keep that in mind and you hold yourself appropriately.
Good. Now, not my final, but my last is the do not call list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've passed
the do not call list is a failure. Perhaps you and at some point the town clerk could speak to us on that. It's really a failure, and it's ridiculous what people ask you on the phone. Of course, I'm not too sweet with them when they do call, but it's...
I can't imagine that.
You can't, right? Yeah. I'm... repeatedly, they call repeatedly in one day.
Yeah.
And my degree of anger rises as they call.
Yeah.
But this is a problem because they ask information, and some people do give them information that they should not be giving them.
Well, I think we've been here together when Chief Noble's come and talk about scams, and you just don't know who to trust anymore when they call.
Don't answer.
Nobody.
Don't answer.
Right, but the do not call list, I think obviously some enforcement's needed there. I've had the same problem that you did. Mm-hmm. I've had it in the last few months where I've gotten the same type of vendor calling 3, 4, 5, 6 times in a day.
Yep.
And so I understand the frustration and the anger that goes along with getting those types of calls. But that's definitely something that I think the legislature has addressed in the past, and now it's an enforcement issue. And so I think that we need to work collaboratively to make sure that if those laws are not being honored, that there's consequences.
Okay. All right.
Yes, Maria.
You know what happens? I'm aware of this now. Don't answer the phone if you don't know the number.
Right.
Easy.
Yep.
If they leave a message, pick it up. Fine. But now we have people coming to the house, nurses, not the same one all the time.
Right.
For physical therapy, not the same one the same time. They all have these little, what I call the Mickey Mouse phones. The phones everybody has? Mm-hmm. You have to pick the phone up because you don't know the number. It's not like, 914, 84, it could be anything.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it is, oh, I'm sorry, it is these calls. So what do? You have to pick it up anyway if you're waiting for someone to come in to help.
Yeah, but I think you just need to be very cautious when you're picking up in that instance, right? And I understand it. But I do think you have to be very cautious in any information, obviously, that you provide.
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely.
but it's a nuisance, especially when you're living the way some of us are,
Yeah.
and you have to keep running to the phone.
I would also talk to the agency that you're using and ask them if there's a better way to communicate with you directly on which nurse is coming, so that maybe they can provide you the number beforehand.
Matt, they do get their assignment either that morning or the night before.
Right.
Because as you know, we don't have many nurses.
Right, I know.
So, yeah.
Yep, you do have a shortage.
We all have answers and
Yeah.
they don't always work, but thank you for listening.
No problem. Yes, Deb? Long time no talk.
It's been a while. There's something called NOMO Robo
Mhm.
that actually kicks things out a lot better than the do not call list.
Yep.
So if, you know.
But I think the robocall situation may be
Right.
different
It's a little
than what's
bit-
being described.
It's a little bit different, but a lot of the calls we're getting are robocalls. Like, I get hardly any anymore.
Wow.
So it'll ring once, and then it kicks them out.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's something that people could look into a little bit. It might not
No-
stop all the
Nomo
way.
Robo.
NOMOROBO.
No more robo.
That's a gadget that you have to buy? No. It's
just a registry.
Right, it's a registry.
It's a registry.
You could look it up online.
Nomo, N-O-M-O, robo, R-O-B-O.
Diana, perhaps you could supply us with that next time out, okay? Thank you very much. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
No problem. Great to see everybody again. Stay well and know that we're always here. Thank you.
I'd like to thank, of course, New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital.
Wait.
Excuse me. And I want to tell everyone that we are congratulating our Yorktown Police Chief, Robert Noble. He has become the new president of the Westchester Police Chiefs Association. I think that's a wonderful thing coming from a town like Yorktown. Yes, I know.
Jim,
Yes.
before Jim comes up, can I just quickly announce this? Ride Connect now has other services other than drivers. I know people have been saying to me that it's very frustrating they can't get a ride because there's not enough volunteers. So twofold here. If you know somebody who's younger, who has time to volunteer to Ride Connect, please let them know. But Ride Connect is also giving guidance for financial or family concerns, help with mental care, learn about local activities, and much more. So I have a flyer. If you're interested, come get that. And the other thing is Westchester County is having a program on aging. If anybody would like to come down and give input into what they would like to see happen in caregiving, nutrition, long-term care, transportation, and technology, come talk to me.
I put it on my home phone.
Okay, Deborah, did you have something you wanted to say?
Just a few things about our district office. We do have some brochures. I brought some here. If I don't have enough, anybody wants something, I'll take your name. We'll get it to you, myself or Kira. We have New York's Healthcare Proxy Law and Family Health Care Act. The actual form you need is in here. All you need are 2 witnesses to sign it, and you're good to go. We have safety tips for seniors. We have information on the real property tax credit. We have the Guide to Elderly Pharmaceutical Insurance Coverage Program, and we have Physician Charges Know Your Rights. You're welcome to come up after and get some of this. And as I said, if I don't have enough, I'll take your name. Also, in Westchester, there are a couple of programs going on for seniors. May is Senior Appreciation Month, and they have 3 Salute to Seniors programs going on. They're free. They're the closest one to us, the Northern Westchester one, is at Croton Point Park. It's from 10 to 12:30, and it is on May 17th. You need to respond by May 9th, and they will give you a box lunch. They're vendors. It's like a fair for seniors. So I have that information.
Where is that held at?
It's going to be Croton Point Park. There's another program called Aging in Place Home Repair Program. There is an application process for that, and there are income limitations. For a family of one, it's $77,650, and a two-person home, that's mostly what I think we are here, right? $88,750. I have an example of the application. There doesn't appear to be a deadline. I've asked for one. They do have a lot of applications, and it takes about 10 business days once you have done that. But they'll do things like install shower bars, put in ramps, all kinds of things like that. It doesn't mean you'll get accepted if you fill out the application, but why not give it a go if you have a need? And our phone number, district office phone number, is 845-278-2923. Kira is there most of the time, and she's the district director. I'm usually there 3 days a week.
Very good. Thank you very much. Mr. Martirano? Okay.
Be a lot quicker than the other speakers. I just wanted to iron home some key dates. But before I do that, we had a wonderful young woman that talked about getting nice and strong and building up those muscles. Noreen, unfortunately, isn't here, but I do want to echo a program that she was able to get for this town for free starting on May 2nd. It's called Stay Strong and Fit. It's a fitness class that's for free that is sponsored by the Westchester County Department of Senior Programs and Services. And to sign up for that program, for that free fitness class, call Noreen at 914-962-7447. Those classes take place on Tuesdays for 16 consecutive weeks. And that's from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock p.m. There's no class on June 6th and June 4th. So once again, if you want to build up some muscle, call Noreen at 914-962-7447. So very exciting class. You should definitely consider about signing up with that. Just going more on some dates, we have a great family concert coming up here in the middle of town, similar to a setup of San Gennaro called the Fam Jam. It's for families to come together. The grandkids can play sports while you listen to some music. That's taking place on April 28th and April 29th. The hours are on Friday 4 to 8, and on Saturday I believe it's noon to 8. So the music won't be on too late for those of you that live locally, but it will be a fun time for you and your family. On the 30th, the Chamber of Commerce is hosting a street fair at the JV Mall. There'll be food trucks and all sorts of other activities as well, and entertainment there at the JV Mall starting at, I believe, noon on the 30th. On the 1st of May, this is the most important you're going to want to listen to and pay attention to. That is when we start giving out our free pool passes. So if you're a Yorktown resident and you're a senior over the age of 70, it is for free. If you are a senior from the ages of 60 to 64, I believe it's $30 per pass. And if you are a senior from 65 to 69, it is $15 per pool pass. If you have your pass from last year, you can just simply call the office and we can renew it if you're over the age of 70. And you just, as long as you have the physical card in your personal wallet, just call us and we can renew that card just over the phone. And you can call us at 914-962-4650. The 245, excuse me. Well, my home number is 962. 914-245-4650, extension 0. Once again, 914-245-4650, extension 0. I'm getting confused with my home number here. The joys of being
you spend so much time here.
Exactly. So sign up for those pool passes. We also have our first ever car show at the JV Mall for Parks and Recreation. That's going to be on May 20th. And also the Memorial Day Parade is going to start here at Town Hall on Memorial Day, the 29th of May at 11 a.m. So please be here for the opening ceremonies of that. And also we have our movie nights that will be kicking off on June 30th. And we'll be showing Top Gun Maverick, the new Top Gun movie. And that's going to be at Veterans Field. Right there, bring a picnic blanket and a chair. And we'll be showing that movie for free. And that's on the 30th, and that starts at sunset. So that's all that I have that's fun and exciting. I don't know if you have any questions. That's June 30th for the movie night.
Do you have a copy of that somewhere we could pick up? Name 20,000 different things.
I do not have that. That was just off the top of my head of different things that we had going on here. But
go to a video. go to the computer. Do you get on the computer?
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
Brochure
But
should
you
be
can call, once again, you can call my office anytime. I could talk to you about any of those events, 914-245-4650. There will be a, yes.
booklet, brochure.
Well,
Came in after.
That's a great question he had. He said, hey, I put out a flyer. Yes, so the May flyer, it's a May-June flyer that's going to be coming out, will have all those activities that take place after May 1st. So
Very
that'll be
good.
there.
Thank you so much, Jim. Thanks a
Thank you.
lot. Thank you. Okay, folks, our next meeting is May 19th. Hopefully, if everything works out with scheduling, we will have Mike Lawler here, thanks to Deborah.
No, not me, Mike Giro.
And you can ask him some questions. Yes, Ed?
You know,
Okay.
funny thing is,
Notice my wife isn't here.
Yeah. Oh, no wonder. Is she all right?
Now we could talk.
You are Senior Advisory Committee.
Yeah. Yes, if you want people to hear you.
I won't be able to make it there.
All right.
Give him a microphone.
Now listen, I attended the board meeting, and at our seniors at St. Pat's, we had a person speak on all the development that's happening here. Okay? His name is George Soul. You should have him speak here. The reason why is we have 37,000 people in the town of Yorktown. 50,000 is too much for handling the water, the sewer, and the roads, okay? If you look at, I'm gonna hand it to you when you combine me, but it has 554 different condos and apartments that the town is gonna try to pass on to develop. Do you know how many cars are gonna be? Do you know how many people on the roads are gonna be? Do you know how many people are gonna be in the town?
Say
You're
no.
on the Senior Advisory Committee. I got a copy of it. You look at it, and I know you want senior housing, but not all this. This is gonna kill the town.
Ed?
All right,
Excuse me, Ed.
thank you, Ed.
Excuse me,
Thank
Ed.
you all.
Hold it. Is that accurate information, Ed, that you have?
Excuse me, I was at that meeting. I was at that meeting, and I have the floor right now. So I have the floor right now, so you can listen to me. And I'm sure you heard what I had to say to that gentleman. I don't mind listening to anyone that wants to get up and speak their piece, if they speak the truth.
Right.
Every word out of his mouth was untrue. So we have had, and I'm not going to go into it in detail, we have had many meetings in this town, at this town board, and throughout the papers and everything, explaining exactly what was happening there, and people are still available to tell you what's going on. So when you get up to speak, and if we have a speaker in this room, we will see what his agenda is and make sure he speaks the truth. I will have no one at this microphone that does not speak the truth.
Amen.
And I brought that up at the meeting, and everybody heard me.
And Tommy, Diana said it was inaccurate.
Okay, we'll see you next month.